They called him a D3 reject, said he wasn't good enough for the big time, said his dream was a joke. But he didn't listen. He just worked. This is the story of how Pierre Garçon went from playing in front of empty D3 stands to catching passes from an NFL legend. In 2013, Pierre Garçon stood atop the National Football League. He had caught 113 passes, more than any other receiver in the entire league that season. It was the peak of a journey that almost no one saw coming, a moment of ultimate validation for a player who began his college career not under the bright lights of Division I, but in the shadows of Division III, labeled a reject. His story is a testament to relentless work, unwavering self-belief, and the refusal to let anyone else define his limits. It's a journey that started far from the spotlight, in the working-class neighborhoods of South Florida. Pierre-Andre Garçon was born in August 1986 in West Palm Beach, Florida. His parents had immigrated from Haiti seeking a better life. He grew up primarily in Green Acres, Florida, raised by his mother, Marie. His background was modest. There were no shortcuts, no silver spoons. From a young age, the value of hard work was ingrained in him. While details of extreme childhood hardship aren't as prominent in his story as some others, the environment was one where opportunities were earned, not given. At John I. Leonard High School, he was a multi-sport athlete, starring on both the football field and the soccer pitch. He had speed, good hands, and a natural competitive fire. He put up decent numbers as a wide receiver. But in the hyper-competitive world of Florida high school football, decent wasn't good enough to grab the attention of the major college programs. When it came time for college recruitment, the phone lines were quiet. He wasn't ranked highly by the scouting services. He didn't have the eye-popping size or the blazing speed that made coaches drool. He received 0 scholarship offers from Division I schools. The dream of playing big-time college football, the path that seemed laid out for so many other talented Florida kids, was closed off to him. It was a brutal rejection, a clear message from the football world. You're not good enough. Faced with this reality, his options were limited. His college journey began not at a powerhouse program, but with a strange detour. He initially enrolled at Norwich University, a private military college in Vermont. Norwich was known more for its Reserve Officers Training Corps program than its football team, which competed at the Division III level, the lowest rung of NCAA football. He played one semester there in 2004, dominating the lower level of competition with 44 catches for over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. He proved he could play, but this wasn't the dream. It felt like a dead end.
And then how did you wind up at Mount Union?
I actually sent Coach Larry Karras a VHS tape of me from Norwich University, and I actually put it in the postal service. They were interested. I sent them an email.
Seeking a better football environment, but still shut out from the D1 level, he made a move that would define the narrative of his career. He transferred to the University of Mount Union, a small D3 school in Alliance, Ohio. While still Division III, Mount Union was different. It was a dynasty, a legendary program known for absolutely dominating its level, winning national championships year after year. It was the best possible place to play if you couldn't play in D1. But it was still Division III. The move solidified his status as a D3 reject. He was now playing against guys who were mostly playing for the love of the game, not for a future in the NFL. For a player with aspirations as high as Garçon's, this felt like a massive step down, another sign that the football world had deemed him unworthy of the highest level. But instead of letting the D3 label define him, he used it as fuel. If he couldn't play against the best, he would dominate the level he was at so that the NFL couldn't ignore him. He attacked his time at Mount Union with a relentless work ethic. He wasn't just the most talented player on the field. He was determined to be the hardest working. He honed his route running, perfected his catching technique, and lived in the weight room. He knew that coming from D3, he would have to be twice as good just to get noticed. The grind became his identity. This wasn't just about winning D3 championships. It was about proving everyone who had ever doubted him wrong. It was about forcing the door to his NFL dream open, even if he had to kick it down himself. He wasn't just kicking the door down. He was blowing it off the hinges. At Mount Union, Pierre Garçon didn't just play football. He rewrote the record books. Mount Union wasn't just another Division III school. It was the Alabama of its level, a perennial powerhouse that expected nothing less than national championships. And into this winning culture stepped Pierre Garçon, a player with a Division I chip on his shoulder and an unmatched hunger to prove himself. He was on a mission to dominate so much that the highest level of football would have no choice but to take notice. And dominate he did. From the moment he stepped onto the field for the Purple Raiders, it was clear he was different. He played with a speed, physicality, and precision that simply overwhelmed D3 defenders. His routes were sharp, his hands were strong, and his ability to make plays after the catch was electric. He wasn't just good for Division III, he looked like a man playing amongst boys.
The punt return will take it all the way back. Pierre Garçon.
In just 3 seasons, from 2005 to 2007, he put up numbers that were almost unbelievable. He caught 202 passes for 3,663 yards and a staggering 50 touchdowns. His career receiving yards and touchdown totals remain Mount Union's school records by a wide margin. He averaged over 18 yards every time he touched the ball, a testament to his big playability. But he wasn't just putting up empty stats, he was a winner. He was a crucial part of 2 Division III national championship teams in 2005 and 2006. He didn't just ride the coattails of a great program, he starred on the biggest stage.
Going for Garçon, and he's able to gather it in and get a...
In the 2006 Stag Bowl, the D3 national championship game, Garçon put on a legendary performance, catching 10 passes for 198 yards and scoring 4 touchdowns to lead Mount Union to victory. He thrived under pressure, showing the clutch gene that would later define his NFL career. His dominance earned him national recognition, even at the D3 level. He was named a first-team Division III All-American twice, in 2006 and 2007. He was twice named the best receiver in his conference. He had done everything possible to prove he was a special talent. But the stigma of playing Division III football is powerful. NFL scouts are trained to be skeptical of players who dominate against lesser competition. Was Garçon just a big fish in a small pond? Or was his talent real? As he prepared for the 2008 NFL Draft, that was the million-dollar question. He wasn't invited to the main NFL scouting combine in Indianapolis, a clear sign that the league still viewed him as a fringe prospect. Instead, he had to make his case at Ohio State's Pro Day, performing drills alongside players from the powerhouse Big Ten program. It was another chance to prove he belonged, and he seized it. He ran well, looked fluid in drills, and caught everything thrown his way. His performance generated some late-round buzz. Maybe this D3 kid was worth a shot. On draft weekend, Garçon waited. The first round went by. Then the second, third, fourth, and fifth. The names kept coming off the board, including dozens of receivers from bigger schools, players he knew he was better than. Finally, late in the 6th round, with the 205th overall pick, his phone rang. It was the Indianapolis Colts. He had done it. Against all odds, the kid who got 0 D1 offers, the player who had to prove himself at a tiny D3 school, was now an NFL draft pick. But just getting drafted wasn't the end of the journey. It was the start of a new, even steeper climb. He was now entering a locker room led by arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, Peyton Manning. The Colts were a perennial Super Bowl contender, a finely tuned machine that demanded perfection. A 6th-round pick from Mount Union wasn't just a long shot to make the team. He was practically an afterthought. He would have to prove himself all over again, starting from the very bottom. He had kicked down the door to the NFL. But now, the D3 kid had to survive in a room full of legends, led by the most demanding quarterback on the planet. Walking into the Indianapolis Colts locker room in 2008 was like stepping into a different universe for Pierre Garçon. Just a year earlier, he was dominating Division III competition at Mount Union. Now, he was sharing a huddle with future Hall of Famers like Peyton Manning, Reggie Wayne, and Marvin Harrison. The culture shock was immense. The speed of the game was faster, the playbook was infinitely more complex, and the standard of excellence set by Manning was brutally high. As a late 6th-round pick from a tiny school, Garçon was at the absolute bottom of the depth chart. Making the final roster seemed like a long shot. He had to prove himself all over again, starting from scratch. His first challenge was simply learning the Colts' intricate offense. Manning was famous for his complex pre-snap reads and audibles, and he expected his receivers to be on the exact same page at all times. For a rookie coming from D3, the learning curve was incredibly steep. But Garçon leaned on the same work ethic that had gotten him this far. He spent extra hours in the film room, studying the playbook, and working tirelessly on the practice field to perfect his routes and timing. He knew he couldn't afford any mistakes. His contributions in his rookie season were modest, primarily on special teams and as a backup receiver. But he had made the team. He had survived his first test. His real opportunity came in his second season, 2009. The legendary Marvin Harrison had moved on, opening up a starting spot opposite Reggie Wayne. Garçon seized the chance. He wasn't just a D3 feel-good story anymore. He was a legitimate NFL starting receiver, catching passes from Peyton Manning in one of the league's most explosive offenses. Playing with Peyton Manning was both a blessing and a challenge. Manning's greatness elevated everyone around him, but his demand for perfection was relentless. Any dropped pass, any missed alignment would earn a receiver the famous Manning stare. Garçon had to learn quickly, developing the thick skin and mental toughness required to thrive under that intense pressure. He later credited Manning with teaching him the true meaning of preparation and professionalism.
What was it like breaking into the league and catching passes from Peyton Manning and having him demanding so much of you?
You know, it's hard at first because you're not speaking the same language, but year 2, year 3, you're on the same page because he wants to throw touchdown passes.
That 2009 season was his breakout year. He caught 47 passes for 765 yards and 4 touchdowns, becoming a reliable deep threat for Manning. His biggest moment came in the AFC Championship game against the heavily favored New York Jets. In a dominant performance, Garçon torched the Jets' top-ranked defense, catching 11 passes for 151 yards and a crucial touchdown, helping lead the Colts to Super Bowl 44. Although the Colts would lose that Super Bowl to the New Orleans Saints, Garçon had proven he belonged on the biggest stage. His development continued, but the ultimate test of his ability came in the 2011 season. Peyton Manning was sidelined for the entire year due to multiple neck surgeries. The Colts, who had been a perennial powerhouse, completely collapsed without their leader. The team cycled through 3 different ineffective quarterbacks: Kerry Collins, Curtis Painter, and Dan Orlovsky. It was a chaotic and losing season. But amidst the wreckage, Pierre Garçon stepped up. With Reggie Wayne also battling injuries, Garçon became the team's undisputed #1 receiver. Despite the horrendous quarterback play, he put together his best statistical season to date, catching 70 passes for 947 yards and 6 touchdowns. He proved that he wasn't just a product of playing with Peyton Manning. He could produce on his own, even in the worst possible circumstances. He had proven his toughness, his reliability, and his skill. The D3 reject had become a legitimate, high-level NFL receiver, ready to cash in on his hard-earned success. Alright, quick break. If you want more unfiltered stories like this, do us a favor and smash that subscribe button. He had survived Peyton Manning's demands and proved he could thrive even without him. Now it was time for the ultimate validation, becoming the most productive receiver in the entire league. Pierre Garçon entered the 2012 offseason as one of the most intriguing free agents on the market. He had proven his talent, toughness, and ability to produce even in difficult circumstances during his final season with the Colts. Teams saw a reliable ascending receiver entering his prime. The Washington Redskins, looking to provide weapons for their newly drafted rookie quarterback, Robert Griffin III, aggressively pursued him. In March 2012, Garçon signed a lucrative 5-year, $42.5 million contract with a significant $20.5 million guaranteed. The D3 reject had secured his first massive payday, a life-changing contract that rewarded his long journey. His first season in Washington was solid, though hampered slightly by injuries. But it was his second season, 2013, that cemented his status as one of the league's elite receivers. It was the absolute peak of his career, the ultimate triumph for the player everyone had overlooked. Working under offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan and playing primarily with quarterbacks RG3 and Kirk Cousins, Garçon became the focal point of the Washington passing attack. He was targeted relentlessly, using his strength, precise route running, and incredibly reliable hands to dominate opposing defenses. He wasn't the flashiest receiver, but he was arguably the most dependable. He specialized in making tough catches over the middle, absorbing big hits, and consistently moving the chains. By the end of the 2013 season, his numbers were staggering. He finished the year with 113 receptions, leading the entire National Football League in that category. He beat out superstars like Calvin Johnson and Antonio Brown. He also set career highs with 1,346 receiving yards and added 5 touchdowns. It was a monumental achievement. The kid who received 0 Division I offers, the player who had to prove himself at the lowest level of college football, was now officially the most productive pass catcher on the planet. He had reached the summit. His performance in 2013 wasn't just a statistical outlier. It was the culmination of years of relentless work. He had transformed himself from an unknown D3 prospect into an indispensable offensive weapon through sheer grit and dedication. His journey became an inspiration, a powerful example that talent could be found anywhere, and that being overlooked wasn't a death sentence. It was fuel. He remained a consistent and reliable receiver for Washington for 3 more seasons, known for his toughness and professionalism. He battled through various injuries, but rarely missed time, embodying the hard-nosed work ethic that had defined his entire career. He finished his 5-year tenure in Washington with over 4,500 receiving yards, leaving his mark as one of the most productive receivers in franchise history. In March 2017, Garçon signed another significant free agent contract, this time a 5-year, $47.5 million deal, $20 million guaranteed, with the San Francisco 49ers. The move reunited him with head coach Kyle Shanahan, who believed Garçon's veteran leadership and reliable hands would be crucial for his young team. Unfortunately, his time in San Francisco was marred by injuries. Just 8 games into his first season with the 49ers, he suffered a season-ending neck injury. He returned in 2018, but struggled with knee and shoulder issues, playing in only 8 more games before being placed on injured reserve again. The physical toll of his fearless playing style over a decade in the league had finally caught up to him. The 49ers released Garçon in March 2019. After sitting out the entire 2019 season as a free agent, he quietly retired from the NFL, ending an improbable 11-year career. Pierre Garçon's legacy is secure. He finished his career with 628 receptions, 7,854 yards, and 38 touchdowns. Numbers that place him among the most productive receivers of his era. But his impact goes far beyond the stats. He remains one of the greatest underdog stories in modern NFL history. A powerful symbol of perseverance. He's arguably the most successful NFL player to ever come from the Division III level, shattering the myth that elite talent can only be found at powerhouse programs. He proved that relentless work ethic, unwavering self-belief, and a refusal to be defined by other people's expectations are the true keys to success. He proudly represented his Haitian heritage throughout his career, becoming an inspiration for that community as well. From a D3 reject to catching passes from Peyton Manning in a Super Bowl to leading the entire NFL in receptions, Pierre Garçon's journey is the ultimate proof that it's not where you start. It's how hard you're willing to work to get where you want to finish. He turned being overlooked into his greatest strength. His journey from D3 reject to leading the NFL is a raw, unfiltered story of hard work paying off. It's proof that you should never let anyone else define your potential. Who's another player with an incredible underdog story? Sound off in the comments. If you want to see our next investigation, hit that subscribe button.